Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. Today, with the midterm elections coming up, President Biden makes a big push to get out Democratic voters by pushing his plan to make abortion a national right if Democrats keep control of Congress. Targeting Jews in America with anti-Semitism on the rise, we'll look at a new tool that makes it easier to go after Jewish people and businesses. She's one of the top Christian singers and songwriters in the country. Now, Tasha Layton has also been nominated for a Dove Award. She talks to CBN Studio 5 about her music and her life. And he led his team to the national championship in college basketball. Baylor University coach Scott Drew discusses the importance of his Christian faith and winning in the game of life.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin with President Biden making a major move to influence the upcoming election. With the House and Senate on the line, he's focusing on abortion to help strengthen Democratic candidates. The president announcing he intends to make the right to an abortion his top priority next year if Democrats keep control of Congress. CBN's Brody Carter has our top story.
This full-court press to codify abortion rights came during a Democratic National Committee in downtown Washington. President Biden made it personal, telling voters their decision this November boils down to either helping this effort or banning abortion. Now, a closer look at current pre-election polls, however, paints a different picture.
The first bill that I will send to the Congress will be to codify Roe v. Wade. And when Congress passes it, I'll sign it in January, 50 years after Roe was first decided the law of the land.
The president's rallying call comes 3 weeks ahead of the midterms with his proclamation that abortion is the most important choice for American voters.
We're only 22 days away from the most consequential election in our history, in my view, in recent history at least.
This makes me spitting mad.
Penny Nance with Concerned Women for America says recent polling shows abortion isn't weighing nearly as heavily on voters as the economy and other issues.
This is going to be an election in which top of mind voters are very upset and concerned about gas prices, about food prices, about the fact that they can barely afford their lives anymore.
Nance's point is backed up by a CNN New York Times poll taken in just the last week, which finds Americans' most important concern is the economy, including jobs in the stock market at 26%. Cost of living comes in second at 18%, followed by abortion and immigration, tied at just 5% each.
We refuse to accept a future.
Attempting to take advantage of the reaction of abortion rights supporters to the end of Roe v. Wade, the president and Vice President Kamala Harris are using their high-profile positions to make abortion the centerpiece of the midterms.
The highest court in our land, the United States Supreme Court, just took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America. So by extension, what just happened will invariably impact women around the world.
The bill Democrats are pushing is called the Women's Health Protection Act. But instead of protecting women's health, Melanie Israel with the Heritage Foundation says it's more extreme than Roe v. Wade.
Roe allows abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy. This Women's Health Protection Act that President Biden is advocating for goes even beyond that. In addition to allowing abortion on demand, it would effectively repeal hundreds of other pro-life laws in the states, things like informed consent requirements, clinic safety regulations, conscience protections for people who don't want to participate in abortions.
Responding to the president's DNC remarks, Ronna McDaniel, the Republican National Committee chair, says that Mr. Biden is, quote, deeply out of touch with the concerns of families. Senator Lindsey Graham is already on record seeking a federal ban on most abortions at 15 weeks. However, the president has pledged to veto any future bill that calls for banning abortions on the federal level should Republicans take control of Congress. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thanks, Brody. While the Democrats are focusing on abortion rights, many Republican-led states have passed pro-life measures. In Georgia, a new law protecting the unborn is also giving a financial break to families. The law not only recognizes life as soon as a fetal heartbeat is detected, it also allows taxpayers to claim the embryos as dependents on their state taxes. Charlene Aaron has more on the measure and the reaction to it.
Following the Supreme Court's ruling overturning Roe, the Georgia Department of Revenue announced that residents can claim a personal exemption of $3,000 for each unborn child. Opponents argue the move opens up a host of problems, while supporters say it's creating a culture of life in the state. The new rule, called the Living Infants Fairness and Equality Act, or LIFE, recognizes an embryo as a human life as soon as a heartbeat is detected. The Georgia State Revenue Department offers this guidance. A taxpayer who has an unborn child or children on or after July 20th through December 31st, 2022, with a detectable human heartbeat may claim a dependent personal exemption in the amount of $3,000 for each unborn child on their 2022 tax return. The department goes on to say that similar to other deductions, relevant medical records must be provided to support the dependent claim. Abortion proponents are slamming the policy. Lauren Groh-Wargo, manager of Stacey Abrams' gubernatorial campaign, tweeted, "So what happens when you claim your fetus as a dependent and then miscarry later in the pregnancy? You get investigated both for tax fraud and an illegal abortion?" While the Revenue Department has not clarified whether the law would apply to miscarriages, pro-lifers applaud the move. Elizabeth Reed is leadership director of Georgia Life Alliance, a group which lobbied legislators to approve the measure.
I think this act and then other measures that we have worked really hard on here in Georgia provide a lot of wraparound services and support to the women who need it most, who are facing a crisis in their pregnancy.
Reed hopes it shows struggling expectant mothers that there is help.
Even if, the baby's father is not supportive, or maybe they don't have a supportive family network or support system, they're not alone. That they're going to have one through the pro-life movement, through the church, and through the state.
Pastor Garland Hunt of the Father's House in Norcross, Georgia, agrees.
That child is a person that's growing in what should be the most protected place for a child to grow is inside that mother's womb. So certainly any provision that can help a mother be a mother, I think is a good thing.
Meanwhile, Reed is hopeful other states will adopt similar policies.
I really am encouraged by all the attention that we're getting across the nation about this law. I think that that's making, the case for our compelling interest in protecting and supporting life in the womb.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News, Atlanta.
Thank you, Charlene. Just a reminder for our viewers, if you miss an episode of Newswatch, you can still catch it on YouTube. You can find it by just typing in CBN Newswatch Today, CBN Newswatch Today, in the YouTube search box, and you can see older episodes as well. Coming up, under attack, 1 in 4 American Jews reported incidents of anti-Semitism in the last year. Now, a new strategy for targeting them is underway. We'll see how Boston's mapping project is making the way for even more attacks when we come back. Elderly Jewish men assaulted on the street. Angry mobs attacking Jews as they dine in restaurants. An alarming rise in anti-Semitism is happening right here in America. And now a new interactive tool is making it easier to target Jewish people and their businesses. Heather Sells reports from Boston on what's known as the Mapping Project.
Creators of the Mapping Project say it is designed to expose those who support the colonization of Palestine. It goes a step further, however, calling for the dismantling and disruption of almost 500 organizations and individuals, many who are Jewish, like Rob Likent. He is the New England director for the American Jewish Committee.
There was extensive research. It gave addresses. It gave the names of directors. I'll mention it.
Eli Kohanim, the State Department's former deputy special envoy on anti-Semitism, says the map paves the way for more attacks.
the members of the Jewish community in the United States have been completely shocked.
The mapping project comes amidst rising levels of violence in the U.S., as well as a rise in anti-Semitic attacks, including here in New England. Attacks like these in New York last year, when an angry mob came after Jewish diners. Assailants are also known to go after elderly Jewish men and even vandalize schools.
This is the ninth anti-Semitic hate incident to happen this year at Manhattan Beach schools.
The Anti-Defamation League tracks harassment, vandalism, and assault in the U.S. Last year, it recorded the highest number since it began following the attacks in 1979. The American Jewish Committee also states 1 in 4 American Jews reported anti-Semitism in the last year.
There's tremendous anxiety in the Jewish community. This is a moment where people feel like things have changed.
Layton says that after World War II and the Holocaust, American Jews found growing acceptance in U.S. society, and there was a sense of the past being left behind. Now he sees a new boldness in anti-Semitic thinking.
People who have those ideas, who kept them to themselves, now feel increasingly comfortable expressing them.
Those anti-Jewish sentiments are popping up in the form of flyers like these dropped in suburban neighborhoods. Others blame Jews for profiting off the pandemic. This anti-Jewish hate is coming from both the extreme left and right. For instance, white supremacist-driven ideology motivated the Pittsburgh synagogue shooter who killed 11 people. Layton explains the disturbing line of thought.
The Jews are somehow the engineers behind a vast conspiracy to turn America into mud people. We're race mixing. It's all of a sudden going to turn this country into a homogenous country where white people will no longer exist. That idea sounds crazy to many of us, but it now has a very substantial audience.
On the left, there's anti-Zionism.
The notion that Israel is the worst place on earth.
Kohanim points out a trend in Europe where attacks on Jews increase when there's conflict in Israel. That is now happening in the U.S., most recently during Israel's conflicts with Gaza.
We had caravans of Palestinian flag cars driving through Jewish neighborhoods, particularly looking for Jews to attack. And in fact, they did attack Jews all across this country.
The FBI is keeping tabs on the mapping project. In Boston, a wide array of elected officials and community leaders have denounced it. Still, the site remains, and so does the threat. In light of that, Layton is even more focused on building bridges and encouraging conversations about anti-Semitism, hoping people will learn to better tolerate and even appreciate our differences. Reporting in Boston, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Still ahead, our Studio 5 conversation with top Christian singer and songwriter Tasha Layton. We'll talk about her life, her music, and her career, and being nominated for a Dove Award. We'll have that interview for you in just a moment. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Christian singer and songwriter Tasha Layton is known for her smash hit, Look What You've Done. The song premiered during the pandemic and reached the Billboard charts, earning her a spot in the top 5 female Christian artists of the year. Now the song is nominated for Song of the Year at the upcoming Dove Awards. CBN Studio 5 sat down with Tasha this week at her home in Nashville to talk about her life and music career, including how she feels about being nominated.
Look what you've done.
So we sit here on the eve of the Dove Awards. A year ago, you were doing pre-show.
Yeah.
This year, nominated. How's it feeling?
It feels great. You know, I think my personality is one. I love to see growth and progression, and I think it's just a natural progression of, you know, how things are going and the music connecting to people. And so I'm so excited. The fact that I'm doing this now, it's really, really sweet. And I think the timing of it is beautiful, because I thought, you know, so many things in my life that I thought were detours were certainly not.
How special is the nomination for specifically the Song of the Year? What's that like for you?
You know, the amount of people who write in and tell me that this song is their anthem, that it's gotten them through hard times, that it has given them courage and boldness and faith to face the future. And it's just, I think it really is a testament to how this song has touched so many people. That's totally God.
So you write this song with a team. Tell me about the process. What was the prayer? What were you guys trying to say?
This song is my testimony in a song. And so when I walked into the writing session that day, I said, I want to write a song about what God has done in my life. And sometimes when we write the most personal songs, they end up being the most universal. And so I think that was the case for this song. It was very, very personal to me, and it ended up being something that a lot of people really caught on to.
Amazed at what God is doing with it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You were saying that you felt, looking back, you thought some parts of your life were detours. What would you say you thought was a detour? Is it touring with Katy Perry? Is it American Idol? What did you think were detours?
Yeah, most definitely American Idol. I wasn't sure why I was doing that show, but I think looking back, I can see how God used that show to sort of give me an idea of how I could be ministering outside of the church. And so I think a lot of times when I would think of, you know, that show and, you know, what all happened on the show, I'm like, why in the world am I here? What am I doing? I said I would never do a show like that. And then here we were. And when I left the show, I thought, you know, I think I'm supposed to be doing music outside of the church. And I told my pastor, and he said, you know, we've known that for years, Tasha. We've just been trying to, you know, waiting for you to figure it out. Wow. And so when I ended up getting the job with Katy, it felt like a detour, and it didn't. And so I kind of think, you know, my time with her at different seasons felt like, what are you doing? And then at other seasons, it felt like, gosh, I'm right in the middle of what you've called me to do right now, God. And so I think we all kind of walk through that, don't we? Where, you know, when we feel a grace to do something, there are times when we feel really comfortable in it and gung-ho. And then there are times where we're questioning, what am I doing with my life? And so I think I experienced all of those emotions with Katy. And looking back, I thought they were detours, and they really weren't. It was beautiful. And that's what I say about God's timing. His timing is so perfect.
Can you make something from the wreckage? Would you take this heart and make it whole again?
You shared dark times in your life where you were actually contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
What happened?
I had been really wounded in the church, and I couldn't reconcile how Christians could be so mean with what I read in Scripture. And I didn't have the tools to process what was going on in my life. And so I went searching. And at the end of that road of searching, I found myself to be more depressed, more isolated than I ever had felt before. And I tried to take my life. And it was at that lowest of low, though, that I realized Jesus was the only one out of all those things I searched out that had any power to transform or any power to give me true peace. And so I forced myself to go back to church. I thought, you know what? At some point, it's got to stick. One Sunday, the pastor said, if you want a touch from God, come up at the end of service and we want to pray for you. And I left 3 hours later. And I always make this joke that they would have had to replace the square of carpet on the altar where I was because of all of my snot. I just completely, it was an altar moment for me, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And I just knew, you know, I had a lot of healing left to go, but I knew that the Lord had done something in my heart that day that was really, really special, and it hasn't been the same since.
What a powerful interview, and I love her music. Well, you can see more uplifting entertainment stories on Studio 5 tonight at 8:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel or on the CBN News app. Well, coming up, Baylor University basketball coach Scott Drew, who won the national championship in 2021, talks about his Christian faith and the importance of having the right foundation in life. We'll hear from him when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Coach Scott Drew guided Baylor University to the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship in 2021. Coach Drew is known for his strong Christian faith both on and off the court. In a new video series released by the Religious Freedom Institute, he says Baylor has been a Christ-centered program since he got there, and he talked about the importance of faith in sports and in life.
If you have the right foundation, if you know Jesus has a plan for your life and you trust Him in handling your future, then you can relax and enjoy the game of basketball. You can enjoy the game of life. And at the end of the day, it's winning the game of life is a lot more important than the game. Cutting down the nets and highlights like that is always exciting, but just as exciting, if not more exciting, would be seeing the spiritual growth of guys, for players that accept Christ, players that maybe pray for the first time with the team, players that get baptized, players that come back and they're in Bible studies and they go to church, and you know, that's what's really exciting. And
wow, what a coach. You can find out more about Coach Drew's perspective and insights on faith and life on cbnnews.com. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen today. Email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out on social media. Have a great day. God bless you.